we go. Now you can't see my acne. All right. You have hair issues. I have acne issues. It's okay. All right. Hello, and welcome to Knitting My Shit Together, a podcast about mental health and knitting. I'm Annika, and I'm in Moses Lake, Washington. My pronouns are they, them. You can find me online at T-Fueled Living on Instagram and at Threadcatcher on Ravelry.
Hi, my name is Farrah. I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I use she, her pronouns. You can find me on Instagram at TomboyFemBags and on Ravelry at Farrah Knits. And I have updated my entire stash on Ravelry now.
It's really impressive. I have all but 6 skeins in my Google Doc, my Google Sheets that I... Yeah.
I was previously fairly judicious with my projects, but not stash. And then I think this coming week when I have time, or next weekend, I'm going to do my fiber and hand spun.
Cool.
In there, which isn't a ton, so it won't take long. I just have to, because I haven't played with that much, because I just started spinning, I have to figure out how to do it. And I have a question. I'm going to put this question out for Annika and for any of our viewers who might know the answer. What I'm trying to do is, let's say you, okay, so I have 2 yarns I used for an FO that I didn't use all of. And so they weren't in my stash previously. I just added them to the project. But how do I put in, like, I only used this much for this project and the rest is in my stash? Like, how do you do that? Or would the yarn have to have been in your stash before you started the project?
I have absolutely no idea how the whole stash thing on Ravelry works. But I do know that you can go in and edit on your actual project page how much you used exactly, like grams.
But I can't find it.
You can't find the actual project?
I mean, I can find the project, but when I go to put that in, I can either change the amount that comes in each skein initially to exact grams, but not how much I used for that project. But I'm going to relook. And there's wikis and stuff. I started looking in them last night, but then I got tired and went to bed. So I am going to mess around with that maybe this week. But if anybody knows the answer off the top of your head, please DM me. Let me know. Or you can comment below on the video.
That works too.
What are our updates? What are some news?
Our cowl is going on and is going strong. We had our first finished object this week.
And it was beautiful.
It's so gorgeous. Kat, who is Socculus Reparo on Instagram, finished her nether garments, and they are rainbow gorgeousness. And yeah, like, I absolutely adore them. If you haven't joined our cowl yet, we are personally knitting the nether garments pattern by Elizabeth Zimmerman, and it's size inclusive, and it's what's the word I'm looking for? Like, yarn weight inclusive. It's like, you can choose your own yarn weight. It's a recipe more than a pattern. So there's really no wrong way to do it. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to do that pattern and want to do something else, then you're welcome to do anything as long as it covers your ass. So our cowl runs, started October 1st, and it is running until March 31st.
We have this conversation every fucking episode.
I need to write it down and, like, stick it on a sticky note next to my laptop. Like, I don't know. It shouldn't be this difficult at this point to remember, like...
I think last episode I even put in a title thing that said, we have this conversation every episode.
And we do in some format. Like,
It's okay. Neither of us are good with dates.
This is not something that I expected to be an issue, like, right before my 30th birthday. But, that's okay. So, yeah. So there's still plenty of time to join us. Most of us have not finished our pair yet. I have finished a leg, and Farrah's currently working on hers, and lots of other people are still working on their first and second leg, so there's plenty of time, and depending on the of yarn you choose, it goes decently quickly.
And if you want to join now, not only is it not too late, but you don't have to worry about FOMO, about like, oh, everybody else is going to be done with theirs and I'm just going to be starting, so what's the point? Because the vibe I'm getting is everybody who's doing them is loving it, and there's going to be multiple iterations of this, meaning, like, when I finish my initial pair of nether garments, me and several other people are going to do, like, cast on hot pants using the nether garments. We're going to cover our asses again. So at least I'm committed to be working on a project which covers my ass through the length of the cowl. So you will not be on your own, the only one left doing it. We'll all be working on stuff, I'm sure, many of us, through March 31st.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No FOMO.
So, you can check out progress pics and people's yarn choices in our Ravelry group.
The link to which is in the description box below.
Yep. And then also, too, if you follow us on Instagram, or if you're on Instagram in general, you can search the hashtag #CoverYourAssKAL and see a whole bunch of different people's progress through it. And it's really cool. So
Landon, a trans guy who likes to knit on Instagram, he's getting pretty far. I think he's joined his legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's honestly been magical to watch all of this. I'm really enjoying it. So
yeah, it's been fun. I think Gianna's getting decently far as well. Mm-hmm. Over in the UK. Hi, Gianna. Okay. What else news do we have?
What other news do we have? We have a Patreon.
We do.
And currently on our Patreon, we have a poll going, or will be going by the time that this podcast uploads, about what song I'm going to sing for all of our lovely patrons, because Farrah volunteered me. And I'm highly competitive, so I'm also one to never back down from a challenge.
Which is to my advantage.
Yeah,
regular.
Pretty much. And so there's a couple options to choose from on our Patreon group. You should go check it out. We just finished Vlogtober, and it was super fun. And we're gearing up for Vlogmas, which will also be a whole bunch of fun once that starts going. You get access to all of that content and extra outtakes and extra content from our podcast, starting at the $1 level. And then there are more and more bonuses the higher up monetary value levels you go up. So check it out. Please help support us. Thank you.
And I just want to say, too, and we love all of our patrons, and thank you. And just so our patrons know, I know our outtakes from last week, we didn't really have a lot. So I'm going to mesh them with this week's outtakes and put them in one video. So that instead of 2 30-second videos to click on, like, there might be one 5-minute video. I don't know. And yeah, for reasons we'll talk about in the mental health moment, I got a bit behind on posting Vlogtober, but I have a plan for Vlogmas. Oh, can we talk about the Posse of Weirdos?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we reference it a lot. And I feel like we have a lot of new viewers, and it would be fun to explain so that people don't feel... Because what I don't want is people to feel like it's exclusive. Because I think that's the opposite. And I've gotten some comments from people lately, like, that make me think that people think the Posse of Weirdos is exclusive, and it completely is not. It's the opposite of exclusive. We're the anti-exclusive. So how would you say, Annika, how would you describe the Posse of Weirdos if you had to somebody?
Okay, so earlier this year, like not that much earlier, a couple months ago, there was a post came out in the middle of festival season talking about the prom queens and prom kings of the fiber community, and
Megan Knits Things. Is that her new username? It was Mega W.
I think it's Megan Knits.
I'll put their right Instagram handle in the title bar here.
Yeah. But they wrote this great post about pretty much how stupid the ass kissing mentality that we have transposed from high school and trying to get into the popular cliques to the fiber community and trying to ass kiss all of these
like Insta celebrities in the Instagram fiber community.
Yeah, exactly. And how stupid that is, because we're not really building community. And so, like, it gave words to what Farrah and I had been feeling and had been discussing for a bit before this piece came out. And since Farrah and I are both neurodivergent people, we've
experienced a lifetime of not fitting in.
Yeah. So we decided to collect, I guess, as many weirdos that did not fit in, don't fit in now, don't feel like they have a place. And like our big goal was to create community. And that's been, I think, our number one goal with the podcast just in general is to create community. And so we decided to create the Posse of Weirdos. And like there's no formal anything, like if you want to join, you're in. Like you don't have to tell anybody if you don't want to. Like there's like it's so low key, we just wanted to create a community where everyone's welcome and is inclusive and accessible, and yeah.
And maybe you're really a weirdo posing as a prom queen and you're like using all your spoons every day to try and be a prom queen. And that's, the struggle is real and legit, and that's okay. But we welcome you to join us, and you don't have to pretend, and you can conserve some spoons. And we just all have fun, and it's a lot of us get together when Annika and I do our lives on Wednesdays and Fridays, and
we just hang out.
And we just hang out. So yeah, that's the Posse of Weirdos. Did you have a like soda explosion?
Yes.
How bad is it? Do you need to go get a towel?
No, I have my towel from me taking a shower this morning because the kids that I wash in the morning were here earlier than I expected. And it was just sitting here drying over my laptop table. So I'm good.
Okay. So
I may be a disaster of a human, but it's okay. All my stuff is at close range.
To our regular viewers, if you've been watching or joining our lives and Stitch groups and you're like, am I in the Posse of Weirdos? I want to be in the Posse of Weirdos. You are.
You're in the Posse of Weirdos. If you want to be welcome, you are now in the Posse of Weirdos.
Yeah, if you need something official, this is it. You're in.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all. I kind of hijacked moderating this episode. Sorry. I'll stop.
I'm totally cool with it.
Okay.
Did you put up the pre-order links for the patches?
Yep. Good idea. Good call. And it's in our link tree. It's in this video description.
So pre-order patches, friends. Subscriber patches.
And cover your ass cowl patches.
And cover your ass cowl patches, which Farrah and I helped design and picked the colors for. So if you hate them, I mean, you can talk to us.
Then fuck you. No, just kidding.
Don't know what to tell you.
We did the best we could.
We liked them, so we picked them.
Yeah. And our amazing designer only had our brains to work with. So, yeah.
Thank you, Carrie, for making that way easier than I expected. So, yes. Yeah, so pre-order your patches now. And yeah, they will be shipped to you or ordered in January. That's what we decided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we want to do the subscriber patches. We want to be able to order on a quarterly basis so that as new folks find us and subscribe and want a patch, we can get them regularly and not it be like once a year. But it will just be easier to order them all at the same time. And so we're going to order them in January, but the pre-order links are up now. It's $8 a piece, including shipping. Like that includes shipping. So $8 shipped.
Sweet. And yeah, we'll be creating more collectible, one-of-a-kind patches for future cowls and probably for just other random things as inspiration strikes us.
Yeah,
so
like, I think a Posse of Weirdos patch is in order.
I think so too.
Down the road.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, so check it out. Any other announcements?
I don't think so.
Okay. Is it okay if I give a quick health update since I've had actually quite a few people ask me this week?
Please do. Please do.
Feel kind of bad. Because I've been terrible at updating. So
after you do that, can I give a mental health update too? Because I think people have been curious about. I've gotten a couple of messages. Yeah.
Totally. All right. So 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago now? Yeah, 3 weeks ago, I saw my what was it a month ago? I don't know. It feels like forever ago. I saw my neurosurgeon and they performed a procedure in office on my shunt to try and relieve the pressure in between my eyes and my brainstem because my body was holding too much pressure behind my eyes and I was having low pressure everywhere else because, you know, like
it's all connected.
If my body can't make it difficult, why do it?
Yeah.
So we did a procedure in office to try and help that. It didn't help. It made everything worse. My vision got worse. My headaches got worse. My eye fatigue got worse. That sucked. And so I talked to my neurosurgeon a week and a half ago now. Yeah, a week and a half ago. And she,
well, you had a CAT scan to see what was going on.
I had a CAT scan. Yeah, sorry. I had a CAT scan because they wanted to make sure that
they wanted to see what's going on in your brain.
With my brain to make sure pieces of my brain weren't collapsing and that like my shunt was still in the pieces that it's supposed to be in and that they were still where they were supposed to be. And funny story, it took longer to drive to the clinic where I got the CT scan and to drive home than it took for the actual head CT scan to happen. So as long as you can like hold still and don't have like a panic attack in the machine, like head CT scans take less than 5 minutes. It's pretty cool.
So they don't have an open-ended CT scan at your place?
The one at the hospital, no. The one at the clinic did, yes. It was just way louder and more industrial looking than the one at the hospital. I don't know.
Okay.
I've been in so many of these machines at this point that I'm just kind of like, whatever. Let me know when I can do again.
I had an MRI once, and it is close quarters in that tube.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So anyway.
MRIs are a whole different ballgame than CT scans when it comes to close quarters. Like, MRIs just take the cake for that.
Yeah.
So had the CT scan. My brain is not collapsing.
Yay!
Woohoo! And my shunt is still in the pieces that it's supposed to be in and not broken, which is also a yay. So they put me on a targeted high-level diuretic thing that's supposed to target specifically this area of my body. And
can I say something? Shout out to science.
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck did somebody make a drug that's a diuretic that targets, like, your brain and eyeballs? Like, that's incredible.
I don't know, but I'm really thankful. So I've been on this medication for a week and a half now. Yeah, about a week and a half. And, or a week. No, I got it last Monday. I've been on it for a week. And so far, my eye fatigue has, like, lowered immensely. And also, too, I was driving in the car with the kids and Eric, and I was sitting in the front passenger seat because I haven't been able to drive because my peripheral vision's been too bad that, like, not safe for me to drive. And so I was looking out the front windshield, and I could actually see Eric for the first time in months.
Which is
like
amazing.
I can't remember the last time that I was actually able to see part of him, like, sitting next to me while looking forward. It was absolutely incredible. And so this means really good things for school for me, and that, like, grad school is actually going to be, like, a possibility. Yay. And I'm really excited. So yeah, that's my health update. Ta-da!
Let's see. I'm fine. I think people have been worried. I'm totally fine. And I just want to share, like, my reasonings for stuff too. So I graduated phase 1 of DBT last week, which was exciting. I got a certificate and everything. However, you know, stuff comes up that you don't expect, and it wasn't bad stuff. It was just like, you know, little bouts of sadness somewhat, because there weren't people there to celebrate with me who I thought would be there at the end to celebrate with me. So it was kind of grieving that, while at the same time, like, being grateful for all the new people in my life who are there, like all of you and the Posse of weirdos. Like, I fucking didn't anticipate this, or, like, I didn't know, like, I would be sewing bags and trying to make my way doing that and earn a little money and a living doing that in a way that works with my brain. So that was all exciting. But simultaneously that week, I ran out of meds of my So just so you know, I have ADHD. One of the things I have, one of the letters in my diagnostic alphabet. And I take an extended release Adderall. I take an extended release in the morning when I get up. And then I take in the evening, if I need to get shit done, I take one short release in, like, half the dosage of the morning one. And an extended release does not last 12 hours.
No.
It lasts like 5, maybe.
5, maybe 6, if you're, like, not really doing much. Yeah.
And, like, the short-term release is, like, a couple hours.
If that.
So, I kind of thought to myself, so, and I posted about this. So Adderall is a Schedule II drug. The Either the FDA or the DEA in the US decide that. I think it's the FDA, or is it the DEA?
I have no idea.
One of the two, either the Food and Drug Administration or the Drug Enforcement Agency. I think it's the FDA decide what category drugs are. And they've decided that Adderall is a Schedule II drug because it is a version of amphetamine. But here's what you have to realize. If you have ADHD, it doesn't get you high like an amphetamine does. It's not like speed for you. What it is it increases your dopamine production, which helps you get shit done. And
it makes it so my brain gets quiet.
Yep. And it also, they've shown you need dopamine also helps regulate mood somewhat, like all those things. So it's not just executive function, it's also mood. So because it's a Schedule II drug, different states and cities have different laws about how they govern that. But in Minneapolis, in Minnesota where I am, what it means is my psychiatrist cannot put refills on my prescription. So what that means is every month, some people have to actually go get a paper prescription, like Annika has to do that. I don't. What I have to do, which is still a pain in the ass, is I have to every month when I run out, or when I'm getting close to, in previous months I've done it when I'm getting close to running out, is I'll have like a couple days left and I have to email my psychiatrist and say, hey, I need a refill on my Adderall. And then she phones it into the pharmacy and she has this little code thing. It's like one of those electronic codes that always changes that must be synced with her medical license. And it makes it so that she can call in those types of prescriptions. She has to do it for my Ambien too. So basically, I have to email her. She has to call it into the pharmacy, and then I have to go pick it up every month, which is a shit ton of executive functions that they're adding for people with executive function disorders to get a medication so that they can function more effectively. It's so fucked up. And we have to do this all because people didn't pay for their peacocks. Like, people abused it who don't have ADHD, and now it sucks. And
it's also why I get carded every time I buy cold medicine or the good allergy medication that has the decongestant in it.
Yeah. And I think what's bogus is it's not like you can't get other stimulants as strong as Adderall. Like, I would argue you could just drink a few Monster energy drinks. I don't know. So if you don't have ADHD and you're like, ooh, I take people's Adderall to help me study, it's not helping you focus more if you don't have ADHD. It's just keeping you awake longer, which it doesn't do for me.
Me either. I can take my Adderall and take a nap. Like,
Me too. I have. So all of it to say, last week I was out and I was like, oh, I will just, I'll get to it. I'll get to my doctor eventually. I'll send this email and I'll just take the short-term stuff. Turns out that does not work for me. I got nothing done and I just felt funky all week. Like, I wasn't depressed. I just felt off. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And I was like, maybe it's the transition because I'm graduating therapy, which it might be. But then I realized, oh, it could also be this. So Friday, I went and picked up my extended release Adderall and took it, and now everything is right with my brain again, which makes me happy. So I've been MIA and a little wonky this week, but I'm totally okay. I just was not properly medicated. That's all. That's my update. Thank you for letting me share.
All right. Shall we move on?
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to FOs. Do you have any FOs?
I do, but I cannot show it.
Oh, that's right.
So
do you have any
I can talk about it, though.
Okay.
Let me go grab the yarn quick. Is that okay? Sorry.
Yeah, totally. like I should be having like a dance party or like monologuing or something, because I'm the only one here on screen. So lonely. So
I also grabbed the sparkling water.
multitasking. All right.
Water. Okay, so I test knit.
Is that the cherry one?
Huh? Yeah.
Is that the cherry flavor?
It's
I
one
love
of my
cherry flavored.
favorites.
Okay. That one and the strawberry are my favorites.
Bubbly water. All right. So I test knit the Pianta Bandana Cowl by Lavagna Patriciella, which will be coming out on the 7th. And then you can see all the photos. So it will be here soon. I finished it last night. It's blocking, but it's just almost halfway dried. But pictures can't be out with it finished because the designer doesn't want them to be until the pattern is released, which is completely her prerogative. And every designer does it differently. And but you can see some of my progress pics and get the general idea in my Instagram feed. But this is the yarn I used. This is how much I have left. 72 grams of this left and 66 of this left.
Wow.
Yeah. This is Forest Fiber Arts 4-ply sock. This was the October color of the month, I think. And it's beautimous.
It looks so different like that than it did in your cowl.
I know. I can't wait to do something with this fun because I have tons of yardage left. And then it also I used this. This is by Fiberarium. It's their conservatory colorway. And I use these together. They're both fingering weight to do this 2-color brioche and garter stitch bandana cowl, which you'll be able to see pictures of coming up this week starting the 7th. And it was a lot of fun to knit, and I would totally make more of them. And I've tried it on, and it is going to be the ultimate neck accessory for winter. Like, you'll see me wearing it a lot, don't worry.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You?
I do have an FO this week. I finished Tobin's sweater.
I love this sweater.
It needs to be blocked, but it is done. And I barely touched the second Karen Big Cake. I used Karen Big Cakes in honey glazed, and it is so pretty and so speckly and so soft. And I actually it's my favorite acrylic to work with. I really enjoy it. And it's in Tobin's, it has kind of two, because there's 2 different yellows, but it has one of Tobin's favorite colors, which is golden. And he will argue with you till the day is over that it's golden, not gold.
I'm pro Tobin's side on that one.
It's really interesting. He really cares about some things and just doesn't care about everything else. And
I wonder where he could have gotten that from. Okay, anyway.
I'm not sure if you're dragging me or Eric right now. Or both of us.
Well, I don't know Eric that well, but I do know you well, and you for sure have that trait.
Yeah, my high school grades would show that for sure. So, yeah, high school and junior high is going to be really interesting with that kid. But, yeah. So that's my FO. And like I said, I barely touched the second cake. And each cake comes with 603 yards. So,
damn. Is it worsted?
What?
Is it worsted?
Yeah, it's worsted. So nice. I love this yarn.
I wonder how wide the stripes would be on an adult size sweater.
I can show you.
Are you knitting one?
For me right now? No. I knit one though. Hold on. Because their stripe patterning is the same. So
is this the same thing your cardigan Oh.
So this is the back of my cardigan. And as you can see, like the stripes are like 2 inches long. And then with the front of my cardigan, like it takes up way more.
Love it.
Way more space. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it for my FOs this week. Whips. What whips do you have?
I have a few, and I'm about to start another one today, I think. So, the first one is the one I am working on. These are my nether garments for the Cover Your Ass cowl. And I put in stitch markers last week's episode so I could mark my progress. So, this peanut butter and jelly sandwich progress keeper from Sucre Miniatures is where I was last week. So, I've made, that's like 5 or 6 inches. I made decent progress. The acorn progress keeper is like from this point, I need to knit like 4 inches more maybe. So I have maybe a couple more inches to go. 2.5 more inches maybe till I'm, I believe, done with thigh number 1. I will definitely try it on and it will be close to leg number 1 being complete. And then I can cast on leg number 2. So these are my nether garments. This is knit using Lorna Lace's Soulmate. I'm knitting them on US 1s in a one-of-a-kind colorway, dyed for me by Spun Noma Didico, called Farrah's Grello. There's light yellow. You can see it in this light really well now that I'm facing the window. I turned my chair today, so yeah. And I love it. So that is whip number 1. Let's see. Whip number 2 is my seamless Raglan pullover. I am knitting it using Elizabeth Zimmerman's percentage system. I am almost done with the first skein of yarn. I have this much left. Let's see, where is my progress keeper from last week? Last week, I was there. And that is a progress keeper from Crafticorn, Landon, a trans guy who likes to knit. And I am using Retrosaria by Rosa Pomar, the Mondium yarn. It's a non-superwash fingering, 100% Portuguese wool. That is divine. Sultan got to feel it when I saw him in Chicago, and he was like, oh my God, you're right. And I'm like, I know. So it's fingering weight, and this color, I believe, is called Golden Yellow. Golden. And I love it. Making good progress on that as well. So I feel like with my nether garments and my Raglan pullover, I didn't make as much progress as I would have liked, but I did a lot of knitting on a lot of different projects and like finished the bandana cowl because I had that deadline coming, and I'm happy with the progress I made. And then my final whip, this is a bag by Tammy Casey. My final whip I'm going to rip back. I was knitting the Jaywalker Sock. The pattern is by Grumperina, and it is a delightful pattern. A lot of fun. And the yarn, this yarn is Valkyrie Fibers. This is the Rocky Horror Picture Show colorway. That was like an October thing that I love. I love the colors. But this is what I realized. Vanilla socks are my jam. You have to knit your joy, people. And like plain striped vanilla socks are my happy place. And it's like, I haven't been doing a lot of work on these because I'm like, I don't want to do increases and stuff on socks. So I just haven't been knitting that much on them. So rather than shitting on myself, I'm going to rip these back to the toes and turn it into a vanilla sock. So that's what it'll be. I'm going to probably rip it back today. I just didn't have time yesterday because I was driving home from Chicago. And then when I got home, I was finishing up the cowl so that I would have it done by the deadline. And those are my whips. I'm going to cast on today. Hold on. Getting the yarn. This is one of my yarn bins. So I'm going to cast on a ripple bralette. And I got yarn for it. I'm going to hand wind it into a ball. I can't find it. Urgh. I don't know what bin it's in. Let me look in the other one, because I really want you all to see it because it's really pretty. But I had kind of told myself that once I finished the cowl, the next project I was going to do is going to be the ripple bralette. And I'm going to stick with that. I don't think it's downstairs. I don't have too much yarn.
At least when you open the bin, it won't attack you.
What the H? Okay, well, anyway, it's a serendipitous wool color called wrought iron. Because the other thing I'm embracing, I'm destashing a bit some of my brighter colors that are not okay, so I like wearing neutrals and earth tones and baby poop colors, and it's my jam, and I think sometimes I should, but socks is where I will go bananas. Because they're hidden and they won't like ruin the aesthetic. And the bright colors I can celebrate, but on my feet covered by boots. So I realized that, yeah, this is what I like. So I'm going to do a ripple bralette, and I'm doing it in this wrought iron colorway that's a gorgeous like tonal gray by Serendipitous Wool. So I'm going to wind that into a ball and swatch and cast that baby on. So that I have a way to keep my titties warm this winter. That's my whips. I'll eventually find that wool. It's here. I'm done with whips.
Okay. So I am currently knitting Linnea a cardigan for Christmas. I'm knitting the Ellen cardigan by Ella Ray, and knitting the 12-year-old size. And the yarn that I'm using for this is Karen Big Cakes. And hold on, I can reach my bag. Let's see. I'm using Karen Big Cakes in Cherry Cake. And yeah, Linnea's favorite colors are purple and pink, so I thought this was perfect. Yeah, and I'm currently knitting it on US 7 and US 8s, because that's what it took for me to get gauge, which surprisingly enough, so I'm normally a really tight knitter, and I hit gauge with the suggested needles, so that's weird.
Maybe you're relaxing as a knitter.
I mean, maybe. Or maybe the designer was also like a super tight knitter.
Yeah.
Because I normally have to size up like 1 to 2 needle sizes. So, I don't know. Right. Let's see. Other whips that I have my Nether garments.
Yay!
I have a leg. I realized I still have like 1.5 inches to go, so I'm not done with the full leg yet, but I'm really close, and like just the green gradient makes me so happy.
I do love that.
So I'm really, really happy with this. The yarn is Woolies Cakes. The colorway is Poseidon.
What's the fiber content on the Woolies cakes?
Wool and
Is it
acrylic.
like a 50-50?
It is. Oops.
Because I like them.
It's 80% acrylic, 20% wool, and you get almost 600 yards per cake. And these are just the colors that I have left in the cake.
And is it a sticky knit like acrylic, or does the wool balance that out?
It's pretty smooth. Like it honestly feels pretty like woolly.
Okay.
Like you know the Knit Picks Hawthorne, that wool?
Yeah.
That's what this feels like, just not as tightly wound.
Okay.
So not as nubby, but still it feels woolly. Okay. I don't know. Yeah, and I've noticed that with it too, since my body has a collagen problem where it doesn't make enough collagen, and so like my skin splits ridiculously easily. I buy bulk amounts of lotion, and almost always I'm lotioning up, and I've found that with that yarn, I need to use less lotion. Like it dries my hands less than normal acrylic. So, like using like a Red Heart Super Saver or whatever.
Kids sweaters and your nether garments, but you're hauling ass on kids sweaters and your nether garments.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Let's see, what else did I work on this week? I also worked on my vanilla sock. And this is, the toe is a lie and a colorway. And just kidding. It's called Navy by Premier Serenity Solids. They say it's navy. It's really
we
gray.
We have this conversation like, every week too.
There's no blue tones in it at all. Like in person. And then the Rainbow Lisa Frank goodness is Monosol Uruguay Alegria, and the colorway is Locura Fluo. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's really soft. I'm knitting these on US size 2s because that's what I knit all my socks on. Except for that's going to be changing soon. And I'll be knitting on size 1s, and I'm really excited. So yeah, let's see. What other projects did I work on this week? I worked on my Jaywalkers a little bit, but like I got the toe done, and I got a couple rounds of the pattern repeat done, but my normal sock gauge is too loose for that pattern, and between school and just like life in general, I just haven't had the bandwidth to think while knitting, and I'm like Farrah, and vanilla socks are my jam. So I think I'm probably going to frog them and just knit them as vanilla socks. And then I have one more whip, which is like actually over there because I forgot to grab it. Hold on. Ooh.
The good news is we won't have to rip them entirely out. We can just rip back to the stitch count we normally use for vanilla socks.
I'm ripping mine all the way out because I don't like the way the toe looks. It's too wide for me.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, too. Never mind ripping out.
Okay, so this week, I made really good progress on my ruffle bralette. I finished the body of it, and I have started knitting the strap one side, and yeah, so I will hopefully finish it this week. Like, I don't know, like, it's kind of weird, like, since I've gotten to this point, I'm just like, meh, I don't really want to knit it anymore, which is really silly, because, like, I'm so close to the end, but I think it's gotten to the point where I'm like, I just want to be able to wear it, and I don't want to knit this anymore. So yeah, but it's really comfy, and it fits really well. And the cool part about Jessie May's pattern is that, like, you can customize it to your body. And so, like, my actual, like, body of it is longer by, like, 3 inches than what the pattern originally called for, but it works. So yeah, so I think my goal this week is to finish this ripple bralette and Linnea's sweater, but we'll see. Or at least make good progress on the body of her sweater. I don't know, it's flat knitting instead of in the round like Tobin's sweater, so.
My goal is to finish leg 1 of this, which I'm close to. That's achievable. And maybe get to the underarms on my Raglan pullover. I don't know, because I just got the shipping notification that the yarn for my Lionhearted is shipping.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
We'll talk about that, because I'm going to cast it on probably as soon as it gets here. So you'll probably see that next week. Maybe.
I'm really excited. Yes.
You have one other whip. Tea Cozy.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I do. Where did I put it?
I don't know.
I meant it when I said that I'm a disaster of human people. Like, I wasn't joking. I meant it seriously. Like, oh, there it is. Like, I may have been gifted in the gifted program in junior high and high school and elementary school, but, like, as an adult, like, just a disaster. All right, so I created a pattern and a prototype for Farrah's teapot. She asked for a tea cozy, and her teapot is really wide but short compared to most of the teapots that people use for their tea cozy patterns. And I'm like,
and beautiful.
Not home. So I'm like, just make my own pattern. I can do math. And so I did. Like, I did math for a bit yesterday, and like, math-wise, it worked out. So I'm really hoping that, like, in actuality, when Farrah tries it on her teapot, it actually works.
So that's the prototype.
Yeah, so this is the prototype. I just used leftover wool yarn that I had. And I'm like, I'm not using the nice yarn that I dyed specifically for your tea cozy on the prototype. So
they're gonna mail it to me, and then I will try it on my teapot, and if it works, voila.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, then I'll be able to know what I need to do to make adjustments to the pattern that I wrote, and make another prototype. So
I've decided the time has come that I have to cut back on my Coke Zero consumption. And, like, drink water and tea and herbal tea and things like that. I'm not cutting out Coke Zero entirely, because let's not be crazy. But I am just not having it in the house anymore. And that way, if I want one, which I can have one every day, like, I have to actually walk and get it for myself. But I want to increase my water intake, because I really suck at that. And one of the ways, a good way to do that is herbal tea, because it doesn't have caffeine. And I have this kind of tea that's my favorite. I really like spicy, warm teas. And so there's this tea blend called Montana Gold that I can get at my co-op that I love. And I have a teapot for it that I love. But my only complaint was that it would get cool right away. And I like tea really hot. So I was like, I need a tea cozy. And I asked Annika, would you make me a tea cozy? And they did. And I'm happy. And I can't wait.
So currently it's just waiting for buttons and for elastic, but my buttons are supposed to be coming in the mail today. Hopefully, let's see, wait, what time is it? Ooh, hopefully within like the next 2 hours. So, yeah. This will probably be a FO by the time that this uploads, so that's exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah. That's it.
I think that's really it for Whips for You for real this time.
Yeah. I've done a lot of knitting this week. Yeah.
You have.
Okay. On to the mental health moment.
Mental health moment.
So this week for the mental health moment, we're talking. Whoa. Dropping stitches. Sorry. We're talking about hyperfocusing.
Hyperfocus.
It's a decently common occurrence for neurodivergent folks, especially those with ADHD.
Well, I think one thing worth saying is this. A lot of the researchers and experts in the ADHD field believe that ADHD is very poorly named, that it isn't actually an attention deficit. It's an attention regulation problem. So people with ADHD, we can focus. We just really suck at focusing on what we should be focusing on. And instead, our brain goes down rabbit holes of focus called hyperfocus that sometimes, most of the time, are not really productive.
Yeah. And there are some, like, daily ways that people can hyperfocus too. It's not always just like a random off occurrence. Like, so for me specifically, like if I'm reading a book, I will hyperfocus so deeply into what I'm reading that I've had family members have to come and like touch me, and it surprises me because the stimuli of like the sounds that they're making and like whatever motions that they're making to try and get my attention just aren't being processed by my brain. And my family thinks it's really funny personally to see who can get me to jump the highest or shriek the loudest while I'm hyper focusing while reading. So
that's fun
for them.
That used to happen to me when I was a child, and still sometimes as an adult when I'm watching TV, if I'm really absorbed in a show. Like, I would be watching TV, and this was before, like, I mean, they knew what ADHD was, but it was really underdiagnosed and not as well known as it is now, and I wasn't diagnosed with it until I was older, but it was funny because my parents would be like, Farrah, and all this stuff going on. And I sometimes would even answer, but I wasn't there at all.
Mm-hmm.
And someone would have to come up and touch me.
Yeah. My family thinks that's absolutely hilarious. Which, I mean, like, I guess is a better response than getting angry. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, other things other ways that neurodivergent folks can hyperfocus, is also like, what's the word I'm looking for? Contingent hyperfocusing, I guess, or tangential hyperfocusing. So it'll, like, your brain will rabbit trail into something and then you'll just hyper focus into it, and like that's all you can think about for a specific amount of time until your brain has decided like, okay, that's enough. And then it's just like, personally, like after that, like I just don't care anymore. My brain loses all interest. Like I'm either super into it or I just don't care. Wow, that really is like Tobin, you're right.
Yeah. So I had an example from last week when I wasn't. So, like if you have ADHD, meds can help with it somewhat, help you regulate it. I don't know that it will entirely get rid of hyperfocus because you would have to be constantly medicated 24/7 at a stable level, which they just haven't invented those drugs yet for ADHD. So here's an example. Annika and I were going to record or something, do the live, but I was like, but I was going to take the bus to this yarn store and it's going to take a while. And So, but I'm going to leave now. Why don't we record when I get back? And Annika was like, okay. And then before I got on the bus, I'm like, but you know what? I should just wind one more ball of sock yarn in case I want to do vanilla socks on the bus. And then I was like, ooh, I've always wanted to try winding a gobstopper by hand. Holy shit. Talk about hyperfocus. This is hyperfocus. This took so much time, but I couldn't stop. I was so intrigued by it. And I had shit I was supposed to be doing. Instead, I wound a gobstopper because it was fun and hyper-focusy. And then I was late. And yeah.
And we've talked about hyper-focusing just like in passing on our podcast before, where like Farrah hyper-focused on organizing a specific area of their studio space. And I hyper-focused on doing my makeup and organizing my makeup and washing all my makeup brushes. And, yeah, like...
What were you saying? I interrupted.
What?
What were you saying? I interrupted. Oh. I've talked about this with Annika, and I know they do it as well, but I will hyper-focus on a topic for a period of time where I will in-depth research it. And it's usually like anthropologic in a way, like different cultures and subcultures, or like traditions of different cultures and subcultures that I want to understand, and I'll just go all the way into it. So like for a while, okay, here's examples of stuff I've hyper-focused on. Mount Everest, but not just specifically Mount Everest, but the people who decide to climb Mount Everest. Like, I would never want to climb Mount Everest, but I would love to go to the base camp and hang out. And I spent months obsessed with Mount Everest. Like, I've watched every documentary, all the things, but it wasn't the actual climbing per se, somewhat. It was more the lived experiences of the people doing it, and like the social and economic politics of it, and the lives of the Sherpas, and all of that.
For me, when I hyper-focused on Mount Everest, it was what psychological conditions do people have to undergo to have such a drive to do this, especially when it has such a high mortality rate and such a high like long-term like health side effects like rate. And so that was the part that really interested me. And like I've hyper-focused on like Chernobyl and other nuclear power disasters.
Chernobyl would be an amazing one to hyper-focus on.
It really was absolutely devastating, but like so intriguing. And
I think hurricanes are a hyper-focus for me when a hurricane is making landfall. But go on.
For me, for Chernobyl, it was more about like how did the general population just deal with this natural disaster, because the whole town of Pripyat was like told the next morning that they just had to leave and that they'd be able to come back, and like the exclusion zone is just amazing. But they've had a whole bunch of people every year who still live in Ukraine decently close to Pripyat, and also to like had family members that were in Pripyat, and a bunch of them come down with thyroid cancer every year. And so doctors out there now can remove people's thyroids in an outpatient clinic now, and like they're like, yeah, we can remove it in like an hour or two. And we're just like talking about all of it. And then I also got really interested too into how the radiation has affected further generations since it's happened, and there was quite a few documentaries done about the children who are being born with side effects, or not side effects, but disabilities that are similar to like what thalidomide did in the 1950s, and how they're also having a high case of like a high amount of cases of hydrocephalus over there too, which I also found really interesting, and how they're studying whether or not it has to do with the introduction of high levels of radiation that the parents received. And so, like, for me, it's the medical pathology part of it that like really, really interests me. So
I've hyper focused on I spent a serious hyper focus focusing on modern women in Orthodox Judaism and what their life is like living in those communities, and some of the rituals and traditions they participate in that are really interesting, and exploring the ideas of like cleanness and uncleanness, and like, and when I do it, I see like the beauty in the traditions, but I can also be like, well, that one's a little, you know what I mean? But like appreciate and respect all the different traditions. So like that was a rabbit hole I went down, and I was following the personal blogs, like daily following the personal blogs of several Orthodox Jewish women. And that was really cool. From a broad perspective, some of them were individually like more conservative, some were more progressive, like they all had different viewpoints. You can't really lump one group like that into one pod of they're all like this. It was really fascinating and interesting to learn about. What else? I've done a lot of trip and travel hyper-focusing. I love maps, and I will plan entire trips that I know I'm never going to go on because it's just because I'd have to be a bazillionaire. Like, that it's just fun to plan the trip and imagine and look at the opportunities. That's another thing I do a lot in hyper-focus. And I've planned trips like international trips. I've planned local trips, like, you know, within the states. I've planned bike trips. Yeah, lots of trips.
Cool.
What else?
I hyper-focused on Agent Orange and the chemical compounds of Agent Orange and how it affects DNA mutation and like what it looks like now for like the Vietnamese people, and what it looked like back then when they were dealing with the US government ambushing them with it, and like, yeah.
It's hard to remember all my areas of hyperfocus because there's honestly been so many.
Yeah.
But they're fun. Okay. That's hyperfocus, folks. I know a lot of you hyperfocus about stuff, and sometimes it's fun, I think, to share that information because, like, now I want to research Chernobyl. And I know Annika will have an extensive resource list to share with me.
I probably do. I think it might actually be saved on my other computer.
I had an idea. We make a hyper-focus library. That's like crowdsourced. So, folks, this is what we're going to do. No joke. Okay. If you hyper-focus on topics and you have one that you're really, like, have specifically, you can remember and find the links to, or when you have new hyper-focuses, build a document And I am going to start a Ravelry thread called Crowdsourced Hyperfocus Library. And in the subject line, put the topic, and then attach the document or just copy and paste in resource links. It will be amazing. And even if nobody wants to do it and it's just me putting, that's fine. I don't care. But I think it could be fun. What do you think about that?
I don't think I have the time, but I think that sounds amazing.
Not right now, but the next time you hyperfocus, if you just save links.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Like, you can build them as you do it.
Yeah, that works.
Like, you don't have to go back and curate. But you can if you want, if that's a hyperfocus for you that you would like to do.
I love curating.
Yes, curating is fun.
Ooh, I'm about to start a new color. Yay. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Your turn.
I don't think there's anything else.
No.
I think that's it. We do lives on Wednesdays and Fridays at some point during the day after Farrah wakes up. Just generally in like the afternoon-ish. Yeah. And show notes for this episode can be found in our Ravelry group, which the link for that's below. And yeah. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so. If you liked today's podcast, you can subscribe, give it a like, feel free to comment. You can join our Ravelry group. You can support us on Patreon. That's all I got.
Cool. Well, I think our plan is to do Saturday night Stitch group this week. Farrah and I took a break this past week. Farrah went and hung out with Sultan and surprised a friend.
Surprised a weirdo.
And I had self-care Saturday. So it was pretty great.
Also, I might randomly do depending on how quickly I get this edited, today or tomorrow, within the next couple of days, I might do an additional public knit group. Launch it. Why not?
Cool.
We'll see. That's very tentative that I'm saying that, people.
Great.
Because I also have a lot of work to get done.
Awesome. I think that's it. See you all next week.
See you next week.
Bye.